As I sat down to write this book and put this program together, one of them I learned about in a book written by a man who's become a very close friend of mine. His name is Bruce Lipton. And he wrote a wonderful book that I encourage you to look at and examine and read and study. It's called The Biology of Belief. The biology of belief really has a whole different approach. I was watching a television show one evening, and there was a man being interviewed on one of the talk shows, and I heard him say, just spew out, well, you can't change your DNA, that's for sure. I mean, you can't change your heredity. Whatever you were given genetically is something that you're stuck with. Well, Bruce talks about something, a new science called epigenetics. And I was sitting there and I was taking notes and I was writing about the opening parts of the book, the Excuses Begone book, and I stood up and I looked and I said, you're absolutely wrong. You have within you, this might be shocking to you, but you have within you the power, the capacity, the ability, and it doesn't take that much work to literally change around the DNA that is the basic genetic makeup of your life. By changing around the way you perceive something, I've said it many times, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And that goes not just for things outside of you, but it goes for things inside of you as well. There is a lot of evidence now that supports the idea that we have within our brains the capacity to change the way we look at anything about ourselves and have a whole new way of experiencing what takes place in our own bodies. He speaks over and over again about the power of the mind to deal with diseases. Bruce was a professor at the University of Wisconsin and at Stanford and taught medical students for over 20 years. And one of the reasons he left that academic world is with the research that was being done, he began to realize that how we perceive something within ourselves, in the environment within us, how we perceive it can literally take the things that are going on inside of us and alter them and change them. Can you imagine that? So it's like a whole new way of thinking. One of the very fascinating studies that is in the biology of belief it's the placebo effect. You all know what a placebo is. I mean, someone tells you that you've got arthritis and they say, here's an arthritis pill. If you take this pill for the arthritis that you have, it's going to make your arthritis go away. And your mind begins to process that information, and before you know it, large numbers of people who take a little sugar pill, but because they believe in their hearts, they believe that this is going to do it, that arthritis begins to diminish in the body. And he did a fascinating study about people who were having things like knee surgery. And he had the various control groups, and one of the groups in there was going in for knee surgery, but they didn't do any surgery. In fact, they didn't do anything. They just opened it up, they put little holes in the knee, they went in there, and they looked around, they didn't even scrape, they did nothing. Another group, they did the traditional way of treating the knee. Another way, they did another more experimental group. And then they found out when they looked at the three groups that the people who were told that they had knee surgery improved just as significantly as the people who would have the actual treatment for it. That the belief system, and one of the guys, after 2 years, was running around and doing high jumping and dancing and so on. And he didn't find out for 2 years later. We didn't do anything with you. You were in the group. We were just testing this. Blew his mind. So, just keep in mind that this idea that when you think your heredity or your DNA strands, whatever it is, are the things that you can't do anything about, and they're the great big excuse category that we have. I can't help it. It's just in my DNA. Is something that we're now beginning to realize you do have much more control over it. What I'd like to remind all of you And it's where I took my own take on something called The Secret, which many of you saw the movie of it, and many of you read the books and so on. I had a little different take on that. I said, we do not attract into our lives what we want. We attract what we are. And who we are is really nothing more than the beliefs that we carry around about who we are and what we're capable of doing. So that was the first big excuse. DNA, heredity, toss it out. You can change that. And when you read the biology of belief, you'll see lots and lots of people have done just that by changing around the way they think.